What is the worst mistake someone can make when traveling abroad for the first time? We will answer this question in this video. I will tell you about my mistake, and hopefully you don't do this because it was such a huge nightmare. But before we get to that, if you're new to this channel, do consider subscribing, as we have a lot of travel related content coming up soon. While you're at it, make sure you press on the bell notification icon so that you're notified on all the future video releases. Back to the question. If you're traveling for the first time, or any number of times for that matter, don't do this one thing. I will tell you everything that happened, how I got into trouble, what happened, and eventually how I got out of it. So make sure you watch all the way until the end for all the details. It all happened on the first time I went to Singapore. I was going there from Kuala Lumpur. I was studying at that time. I was going to Singapore with two of my friends, one Mauritian and one Ugandan. We were also pumped up to the idea that we were going to the famous Universal Studios, and being a videographer myself, I wanted to document each and every part of the journey. I still remember I had a new iPhone at that time. The genius thing that I did was to take a picture inside the immigration. If you know, Singapore is a very strict country, but I didn't know at that time. I mean, I heard that Singapore was strict, but it didn't really matter to me at that point of time until this issue happened. Despite the numerous signs that photography and videography are not allowed, I still went on to take pictures because I didn't notice those signs. Immediately, an immigration officer came to me and asked me to delete those pictures, which I deleted on the spot. So they brought me and my friends in for interrogation, and we spent like at least 3 hours being interrogated by them. They interrogated us one at a time, asking us where we were coming from, what were we going to do, and how we knew each other. Who are we going to stay with? It was really awful. It was frustrating. They kept looking at our passports with magnifier glasses, trying to see whether there's anything fishy and all that stuff. During that 3 hours, of course, the bus had already left us. Long story short, ultimately they didn't allow us in Singapore for the reason that we didn't have a valid Malaysian visa, which didn't really make any sense at all because it was our student visa and we've had no issues for the whole semester. I don't know where they got that idea from, but their decisions were final and conclusive. So how much we argued with them, it wouldn't change anything. So it was final. We were not going to go in Singapore, and we were going to be deported back to Malaysia. So at that point, we not only lost our hotel accommodation, our money for the tours and the buses and everything, but the worst thing was that we were banned for 2 years from Singapore. In other words, we were on the blacklist of Singapore. That was unbelievable. I never thought I would be blacklisted from a country ever before. They deported us back in a grill police van. I still remember that day. It was 3 of us guys walking in front, and then there were 9 of the officers at the back escorting us. So we really felt like a VIP at that time, but not in a very good way. So then we went on the van. We couldn't sit next to each other, so each one was sat quite a distance from each other, and we had a police officer in between each one of us. We were transported back to KL, but there was nothing much Malaysian immigration could do about this. That was the story of how we got into trouble. How we got out of it, well, we couldn't do much except to appeal at the Singaporean embassy. We appealed, and then after a few emails, then thankfully the authorities were kind enough to remove the ban. So we were no longer blacklisted in Singapore after, I think it was after 6 months. Since then, I've been to Singapore a countless number of times without any issue. Even though the first initial times I would still have to be interrogated before I get the clearance. That was the story of my deportation from Singapore. This was a lesson learned, and from now on, I don't ever touch my phone at the immigration counter, or even when queuing up at the immigration. That's the worst mistake that I could have made. I decided to post this video so that you don't have to make the same costly mistake as well. How about you? What was your worst traveling mistake, and how did you get out of it? We want to hear all about it. And did you have any similar hiccups? Do comment below, and we will be glad to hear from you and also learn as a community of travelers. And finally, if you're new to this channel, remember to click that subscribe button and click that bell notification icon. That's all. Ciao.